All right, it's 7:31. Good morning. This is Bob Connors, Chair of the, I shouldn't say that. This is Bob Connors of the Newbury Municipal Building Committee. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor,
Yes.
John Keller, Eric Svan,
Yes.
Dana Packer.
Yeah,
Okay. Good morning. This open meeting of the Newbury Municipal Building Committee is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, extended until March 31st, 2023, due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comments. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and the attendees are participating by video conference. All right. All right, so why don't we go to Mr. Walker, good morning. Mr. Rabicki, good morning. Is that John? Is that you? John Kelly, you're on mute if it's you.
that's me.
Okay, great.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, John.
All right, so let's go. Item number one on, I guess, item number two on the agenda is organization of the committee. So the committee needs a chair, vice chair, and a clerk. Do we have any nominations or any motions?
I'll nominate Bob Connors for chair of the committee.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Hope you're more than capable. You're actually the most capable, Bob. So
Well, according to my wife, I can't finish buying a refrigerator for my house, so God help the town of Newbury.
we're still in capable hands.
Yeah, okay, so all those in favor say aye or do a roll call vote. John,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Martha,
I'm actually not a voting member, but I'm in favor.
yeah, and Dana, you know that it,
Same.
okay, all right. Thank you, guys. All right, now, do we have a motion for vice chair? I'll move Eric for vice chair. Might as well keep the band in the same order as.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Martha,
In favor.
Dana.
I'm in favor too.
Yeah, you know, you guys that actually don't have voting, you have more control than anybody else with none of the collateral that goes with. When we get sued for some reason, you can't name you in the suit, I guess, is the big benefit.
They always spell my name wrong anyways.
Yeah. All right, so we need the position of clerk. I'll move to for John Keller to be clerk. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Eric,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Martha,
In favor.
Dana,
In favor.
and the chair votes yes as well. All right. So gentlemen, if we, I should say team, I'm going to have to be very careful here. If we turn to tab 2, excuse me, tab 3. That's the Municipal Building Committee charge. So it says, the committee consisting of 3 voting members and 2 advisory members will be appointed to work with architects and OPMs to deliver plans for and construction of a town hall that meets the needs of the town of Newbury and will address the projected growth of the same over the next 30 years. The committee shall coordinate all bidding and construction with the chief procurement officer of the town. No expenditures of funds shall be permitted without approval of the town accountant and chief financial officer. The committee shall confirm to all open meeting law and public record law requirements. The committee shall meet regularly and shall provide the select board with periodic updates. All right, so if we turn to tab 3, actually tab 4. You know what? I apologize. Next steps, that's going to be, it's number 4 on the agenda, but it's actually tab 3 in the packet.
Okay,
I'm just confirming it. That's what it is in mine. I'm assuming it's
Yep.
going to be the same, right?
I agree.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Page 8.
Okay. So team, basically, I mean, this is the kickoff meeting. So, I mean, I think it's looking at broad strokes, next steps. And it seems to me, just reviewing the corresponding statutes, that one task we need to undertake quickly is the securing the services of an OPM to help work with us and to formulate the paperwork and to help us secure and review the contracts for the architect. So Eric, one of the things, and John, we had a good result on the police station, but one of the things that when you look back, you always look back at what could we have done differently, what should have been included in the contract versus owner supplied. So I just teed up these first a handful of items. The contract, so for the architect, and AIA is a short for architect, if anyone's wondering. So contract covering schematic design, design development, contract documents, and bidding. So I think this time around, we want to break out the contracts in 2 phases. At least that's what I'm thinking. So phase 1, which is everything right up to bidding, would be 250 days. Phase 2, which would be construction permitting, would be 400 days. And I think addressing that right up front now is probably critical. And we were very fortunate that we went through COVID pretty much unscathed, but the COVID impacts on supply chain developed really after we had bought out most of our components. But Eric, why don't I start with you? What are your thoughts on?
Well,
Do you think 250 days is an adequate time to get
I think
where we are?
you got to start somewhere. I think so we need to hire the OPM first because of the cost of the project. The OPM should be able to help us confirm the durations, but we have to start somewhere so everybody understands the parameters that we're setting forth for the project. And with the current design work that's been done, if that's extended, it can be extended under certain contract limits amount. But I think it's fine. And I think you're right that we need to go back to the police station and understand those things that worked well and make sure they're in here, and those things that didn't work, make sure that they're corrected here. And I think we really need to figure out the criteria for the OPM to make sure that they're on the same page that we are, having just gone through this.
Okay, thank you. John, you have any comments you want to add?
Not at this time. I mean, 250 days is like quite a few months, but that should be adequate to start with, like Eric is saying.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is we will be going to a certain point where we'll be making a presentation and recommendation to the select board, but ultimately this will go to town meeting. And whether that is the spring town meeting or it becomes a special town meeting, again, that'll be determined by others. But Martha, what are your thoughts on it? You're certainly being an architect yourself. Do you think 250 days is a reasonable period of time, or at least it's a starting point? I think is Eric.
Yeah, it's a starting point. I think it could be.
Okay.
So that comes out to 8.2 for 8.25 months.
Yeah.
35 weeks. And I think you have to put it in here, Bob, when we go out for the selection, part of the selection is putting the timeline and asking them how they're going to phase the design, and then confirming that against the and so we'll get feedback from multiple parties on this timeline
Right.
during the selection process. So I think design can last forever if you let it, and if you control it and everyone's clear on what we're doing, then it you try to minimize it, because time is money. And as you just said, I think that schedule needs to be coordinated with the annual and special town meetings so that they're in sync. We don't want to get done in the spring just after the town meeting and have to wait in order to move the project forward, because time is always of the essence and cost.
Yeah. Dana, your thoughts? What we try to do, Dana, is set up some baseline timelines, some baseline budget numbers, and then everything gets updated as data and information becomes available.
I mean, it sounds to me like if you a 2-year project, you ought to be able to fit this all in before the annual town meeting that would be 25.
Oh, I honestly, I'll be very disappointed in myself if we're not ready to go for. This should be going to town meeting in 2023. Whether we'll have time to get it done prior to the annual town meeting, or the town may have to consider a special town meeting.
Well, 2023 is only like 6 months away, right?
Well, yeah, we get 12 months within 2023. So basically it would be 8 months, basically 8 months from today. The goal is to have something, to have this before the selectmen, and then the selectmen decide if they're going to bring it to town meeting or not.
Well, that's aggressive. I like it, but it's
Yeah.
aggressive.
Well, you know what, if we put 3 years here, we'll take 3 years. So we'll,
I understand that too.
yeah. Okay.
And we got to keep in mind too, this is starting now, which is we got to solicit, interview and award an OPM, and then we got to do the RFP for the architects and do that. And that could take 3 months right out of the schedule too.
Well, it took us a little more time last time because we had to create the document and the procedure in order to follow it. So
Correct.
hopefully it's editing and adjustments, and then we could move forward fairly quickly. But you're right, John, it's going to at least take a month or two to go back and forth and get it.
Yeah, for each one.
Even when we're ready, guys, the bid, the public process of posting it, interviews and everything, it's probably a 90-day process would be, would probably be conservative.
Right.
But I would think that context is really the architect of record on this. We'll need to redo they'll need to do a revised contract with us but I wouldn't be going out to replace them.
Okay,
I'd like to test the waters on the OPM, but as far as
Mhm.
contacts is gone, you know,
But we might have to do that because of the cost, Bob. think we-
yeah, you know what, again, what we can do is, we need the OPM in place actually before we can go beyond schematic design anyway.
Right.
By law. That's something, what we'll run by the procurement and town administrator on.
Right,
okay,
and the
Okay,
bulk of our work is to get to SD. Once we get to SD, most of the decisions or the big decisions
all right,
are made.
correct.
okay. So, all right, just moving down the list on item 1 on the next steps. I don't know how you guys feel, but no design build components to be allowed. I don't want to hear the words means and methods in the field. It wasn't a big issue on the police station, but I could see where it would be on other, if it was a different style project.
So
Mhm.
things like stairs are delegated only in terms of having the miscellaneous metal guy who fabs them do the engineering and provide a stamped submittal. But
Correct.
it was the things like the tower, which were a little nebulous as to exactly what it was, design build, which led to the openness of the questions, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're talking about those specialty things, Bob, and I don't know, what do we have special in the town hall? If there's a vault or a safe or something that's unique, that specific.
Mm,
But those should, you're right, those should be nailed down, embedded as part of the process.
Mhm. Roof trusses are designed, but they got to be stamped and they submit the shop drawing.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I should say no design build where the owner, being the town, is going to be supplying anything. And
Right.
and I'm even thinking right down to furniture and what have you. And and again, we can start out with no design build. Someone needs to make an overwhelming case that we need to do XYZ design build, but it's
Yeah.
not we're
That's
not
fine.
providing it, it's a third party.
Mhm.
Okay, so
That's real.
I'm not anticipating any real geotechnical issues on the current site.
Yeah.
But again, I want that included and covered within the contract. I don't want it to be a
Yes.
open item where that we have an unknown cost at starting out and then we're getting billed at the end.
Yeah, I'd rather pay to have extra borings done to clarify things better.
Yeah. But I want it all included, John, under the
Yes.
architect's contract.
And
I
that
don't
too.
want any
Yes.
add-ons. Don't want any
Yes.
add-ons for the town. All right, I
Yep.
think, so the other thing too is town hall obviously has different needs than a police station. But I want to make sure the plans include full, audio visual. We're going to have meeting rooms. I'm not sure what we need in them. That's certainly to be determined. Security, and under the current climate of the country, what do we need for a security system beyond the obvious? Do we actually have to have ballistic glass type of I mean, I hate to say it, but ballistic glass type of separation at the front lobby? People have to be buzzed in. I mean, certainly the architects will give us some feedback on that, what they're doing and other. But I just want to get it on the list so we discuss it and don't miss it. Phone systems, data IT, that's pretty standard. The one component I'm not sure of, I was following some of the select board meetings, and it was the central server for cable TV. I don't know. I know there was talk of, and Martha, maybe you can chime in. There was talk, well, we were having some issues with the open meetings. The broadcast was, whether it was broadcast strength or whatever, and it seemed to be a proximity from where the server is at Morgan Ave versus Kent Way. And it seemed like it was gonna be $250,000 to try to redo that.
Right, and I'm not sure that it's really so much of an issue about proximity, but I think some of the equipment is old, and
Okay,
the 250,000 is the number that sticks in my head as well.
Okay.
Not put together.
well, again, I think we want to incorporate that in our drawings and specification. What we'll probably need to do is, who's the head of IT now?
Matt Cooper.
Okay. What we'll need to do is loop Matt in on that, but again, I think including that in is important.
Is the server now at, where is it Kent Way?
No, it's over still in our old town hall.
Yep, so is part of this, there needs to be some enabling or
Well,
is
you're
there
gonna
anything
need,
else? So
you know what, Eric, you just hit on a good point where that gonna need temporary provisions for the server if we
right,
Right.
go forward with the building.
right. And then I was saying, is there anything else over there?
Yeah, you know what we probably ought to do a little further in the process is actually just take a walk through the building and see what, if anything, we should be looking at, but
Has
Right.
anybody assessed the vault or the safe that's there for reuse, or is it in good condition? It's
I think it's in good condition, but I think it's not large enough. So the plans that we've had have shown, have done so far, have shown expanded vault capacity.
Is that something that of value that could be salvaged and sold for?
Sold a surplus. Yeah, I think that's probably a discussion to have probably with Tracy and with Leslie Haley.
probably scrap steel, Eric, to be honest with you. I've had, I couldn't give them away.
There's some value there if someone wants to move it. Just
And
thinking that.
the issue is that, you know, the documents that are kept in there really need to be well climate controlled, and that's been an issue.
Understand, just trying to get every nickel back for
Yeah.
something.
No, it's,
But I think
Alright.
it would make sense to maybe set up a meeting with Matt Cooper and just have him, you know, walk through the building with us and show us the equipment. And
Right, because there's a tower over there, there's a generator over there. Okay,
hey, Dana,
Yeah.
any comments at this point?
Well, at times you're kind of losing me with some of the acronyms, but I mentioned I'm moving into my office because my wife just got up, so it'll be a little more. You know, I brought up at a select board meeting about the IT and security and the capability of being able to, you know, it seems like the short time that I've been here, room availability, you know, scheduling around room availability has definitely been an issue. And I would like to see all, you know, as many of the main offices that would potentially be having conferences in them have the audio visual built right into the room.
Yeah, you know, we actually looked at that when we were doing the police station, Dana. And one of the things, and we'll go into a little more detail when we get a little further down the agenda. There's a term now, we space or me space. We space is your office is properly suited for you to be able to function, you know, do your task, and not have a little meeting table and 4 chairs in it, and allocate the space from those number of offices to additional meeting rooms that anyone can use from time to time. You know, that always seems to be the rub. sometimes all you need is a 12 by 14 meeting room to hold a meeting, whether it's a staff meeting or whatever, and
Right.
being able to have an office at 125 square feet, and I'm just throwing numbers out, versus 180 square feet. Well, 4 offices at 120 gives you another meeting room that can be used anytime when they're available. And when you close your door to your office, that space becomes unavailable to others to use. Where if it's allocated to some meeting rooms, that'll be it. But you know, again, this is all kind of broad brush. Don't want to miss anything. When the architect and the OPM will be invaluable to the committee as we go in. But I just wanted to kind of refresh issues that were minor in nature, and we had to put a little extra time in and sort through. Just wanted to make sure that we start out thinking about them.
Yes.
Anything else, Dana, before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, I guess I know that Eric has done, and yourself has done quite a few briefings on other viable sites. And I'm seeing that I'm brand new here, and I think that, I mean, just not for me, I think that if at some point in time we could put it on the agenda where we're going to do a general overview recap of what sites has been looked at, why they're not viable, why they might be viable, and the final decision-making process of actually where the town hall is going to go. I mean, I had a meeting with Eric, and you know, he had some really good reasons on why it should go on Morgan Avenue, and there's some good reasons why it may go elsewhere. And I'm just, I don't know at this point whether we're just gonna, you know, yeah, it's Morgan Avenue and press on, or are we gonna, and it really gets back to, you know, being a select board member. It gets back to when we go to town meeting, we should be going there knowing this is going to be approved, or else we've really wasted our time.
Mhm.
You know, and to do that, the project needs to be vetted to the point where we all as a group feel as though that the majority of Newbury is on board with us. I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be probably more to your points, Eric, Dana, refreshing everyone's memory, because we have been going through this, not particularly me, but in other capacities been involved with this from a capital planning and finance committee, probably over the last 10 to 12 years. And the recap was simply this: when we couldn't agree upon a site, back in 2010 or 12, whenever it was, we had a joint meeting over at the library. And I know there's probably a video kicking around of that. And we probably had about 35 people attending.
I've watched most of that.
So the one thing that came out of there that was a definitive was that regardless of where the site could possibly be, the minimum parameters was having a public water system and a public sewer system to be able to tie into. And everyone agreed that if you're going to be expending millions of dollars, that the parameter of having, you know, public sewer and public water, and that was regardless of where it was located. Those were the parameters that was unanimously agreed upon. And I think that was Selectmen, Planning Board, Capital Planning, Finance Committee, and the public in attendance. So fast forward, the town went ahead and spent probably upwards of $300,000 bringing sewer to the town hall to solve the problems we were having in the police station. And when they did that, it provided the sewer connection for town hall, the police station, and the fire station. We were able to tie into that when we did the new police station. So that was kind of how we got to Morgan Ave. I think the big thing on Morgan Ave, as I recall, and I'll shut up in a minute, was the size of the building. If we were looking at a combined facility, the square footage and footprint was going to be in the minds of many, and including myself, too big for that site. So when the police station was built and this dropped back down to a single-use facility, we're starting out in a site that works, that can work on the site from my viewpoint. Eric, I'm going to go to you first. Your memory, you were more involved in those stages than I back then. And
Yeah, I mean, there were lots of sites championed by lots of different people for lots of different reasons. And when I think it was October 22nd, 2014 meeting, just at the library, as you said, we had put together a presentation that tried to equal out the sites and say, okay, here are all the sites, here's the square footages, here's the cost of the site, here's the connections to sewer or the costs to get to the sewer, so Dana, like the governor's site was free. It's excellent. Everybody thought that was great, but you had to go through ledge in order to get back to their treatment plant. And then you were tied to Gov's treatment plant, which would need updating and costs in the future. And that was an unknown. And so that was a negative in terms of the town being tied to that. So each site went, we went to the town forest, DPW went out there, health department showed up, they did a perk test, it didn't perk. So we took the sites and then did some work on each site to prove them out. That was the presentation of that meeting. So
the other thing is, I recall on the governor's site, because that was interesting to me. I think it was estimated that to tie into their sewer system was going to be in the 600,000 or 800,000 range. But the deal killer was we would not own the property because we then wouldn't be allowed, and governors would do a long-term land lease. And whether you could bond the actual project under a land lease, where you didn't own the land, was kind of a red flag. And the 900,000 to tie into a system that they were having capacity issues at the time.
Yep.
Morgan Ave was free with sewer. Governors was going to be free without sewer, without owning the property, and having another $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 to run several hundred feet through ledge to tie into a system that those are just all of the. No one had a favorite site. I think sites got eliminated by default is what happened. But again, I think, Dana, it's a good thought, and we will do that in the process. But starting out doing the schematic design, isn't tied into a site. It's tied into programming needs and the like. So it'll give us a chance to be working on that. To get that ball rolling forward. And ultimately, it's going to come down to what the cost of this project is, what is a suitable location. I think we can walk through how over the last decade it came to town hall.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the thing that no one has talked about, I've done a little research with the governor's site, is that was going to include the police station, and the police
attraction,
station,
right?
The police station for the governors was a big selling point because they wanted the resource on the property for the safety and security of their students, and it would have been a big selling point for them for recruiting students also. That's gone now. The police station is not going to be part of this. So
right.
I'm not so sure at this point that they would even be on board with the same, what they offered us before. So
no, I think your point is doing a recap of where we were and how we got to today, I think is going to be important, but it's probably a little further down. It's something as we start to roll this out to the public, we can do.
I
But-
like your thought process about, let's get the, because when we start talking about size and cost, that's something I think that we even might have to tackle before we tackle location. I just as part of the selling process to the town.
Yeah. Well, the first step is programming needs, and all that basically is how many employees do we have? What is their current footprint? How are we going? What do we anticipate for growth? And what deficiencies do we currently have in our current quarters? And it would seem not having enough small meeting rooms is probably a factor. Martha, would that be a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. We have basically none right now, and it's a real detriment.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah, I think it was kind of funny. I was just in the Ipswich Town Hall for another meeting the other couple nights ago, and like, for example, their Conservation Commission has got a room and table and seating that's larger than our select board room is now, and it's just for them.
Yeah.
But I understand that it's a different animal because I believe that was a school that they moved into or something. So they, their rooms and sizes and everything was already kind of like there. So they just did what they could.
Yeah. All right. Well, does anyone else have so we're at the next item E on the list is value engineering assistance during the project duration. What happens, Dana, is the architect will come back and they'll have a team of engineers that are different disciplines doing life safety, which is sprinkler fire protection, HVAC, electrical, plumbing. And they'll come back and why wouldn't they want to specify the Cadillac of each discipline? Because the system will operate optimally. But the reality is most of the time you cannot afford exactly that. So value engineering is, okay, here's the Cadillac of a system. Now we need the Chevrolet Impala of the system. Still going to get the job done, going to get us from point A to point B. But I just want to, again, this is just a reminder of stuff when we're doing contracts and talking that we want to make sure we include. One of the big things, Eric and John and Martha, was all tasks to include estimated quantities. This is one of those things where it's a design build on some site work or whatever. If there are not estimated quantities attached, it's near impossible for the contractor or the bidder, and I'm speaking wearing my general contractor's hat, it's impossible to estimate. You're not going to do the engineering in advance of a bid to say I need 3,000 yards of compacted gravel, but that should be easy enough to incorporate, Eric. I would think that, and it's pretty much by statute too. It's supposed to be estimated quantities.
Yeah, it's that just needs to be clear when we do the selection, that criteria is laid out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next one, material selection, same thing. I want to see everything being specified where they can certainly do a submittal on an equal to, but want to make sure that all building components are specified by a brand or suitable, alternative that can be done. But okay, preparation. I mean, this is just the normal stuff. Prep, presentation, submittals for local permitting, Concom, planning board, ZBA if required. and contractor pre-qualification process before bidding. No, that's one item. Do we want to do a pre-qualification? Eric and John, what are your thoughts on that as far as pre-qualifying general contractors prior to bid?
Can we do that in a design bid build?
Well, we haven't got to that a design bid build, and I'm pretty sure we can, because Essex pre-qualified. They did a pre-qual on all their general contractors before they undertook their project.
I like it a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Up in Maine, up in Maine on public projects, they do a pre-qual, and then they select based on not just the ability to build it, but their financial ability to perform the job in the time frame we have. And then they narrow the field down from 20 to 7 or 8.
Okay.
Right, and again, Bob, that's you just cut and paste that down to the OPM as one of the tasks that they have to manage.
Okay. All right, and then so that would be phase one of the architect's contract. Phase two would be certainly bid awarding process, construction administration, award of bid documents and review, closeout of construction, associated documents, and issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Just want to make sure we've got all the phraseology in there so that the architect owns, till we get the key in hand, he's on the hook, and it's not going to be additional fees. I just want to get that tied up in the front
Yes.
end.
And I'd like to have something in there that we get to review or interview the staff for the CA phase.
Excellent. That's a good point.
Good point.
And that would be for construction administration and the OPM clerk.
Correct.
And the actual project manager.
Right,
Yes.
someone just
That's
isn't assigned, but we get to help pick and understand who that, because a lot of it comes down to chemistry and understanding.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, so. Well, you know what? I don't think we have to get into the OPM specifications, because that's a boilerplate, and I'll be honest, that the first, so if we go through designer selection negotiation, basically us selecting an architect, timeline to complete this phase, project delivery method, designer selection materials, cost estimate for subsequent phases, preparation presentation to town meeting for funding of subsequent phases, design contract construction documents, bidding phase, review of all estimated quantities. I'm really hung up on that for some reason, Eric, on estimated quantities. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Design
Yep.
development, procurement of other consultants if required. And on that part, I'm thinking more, testing and commissioning.
So,
Stat
you
rate out.
sorry, Bob, you just jumped my thought process to an estimator, Seamus Fennessy, who does
Yes.
estimating and is actually was trained in the UK, where they do it a little differently, where the estimator actually does the full estimate and then does the quantity takeoffs, and then they put those quantity takeoffs out to bid. So their construction bid process is a little different. But the point being is that maybe we get through the design process at 3/4 and we get an outside estimate for short
Mhm.
money
Yeah,
to compare. And we also get somebody that's pricing stuff daily that has some feedback. I know I just was in a meeting the other day where VFD drives were 24 months out. So that would be something to test the cost and not leave it up to the OPM, or we just put it in the OPM and the OPM can hire one, but
Yeah.
somewhere cost estimate for subsequent phases. Are we relying on the OPM to pull costs? Or are we really actually going out to somebody who's an estimator to get costs?
Yeah, I mean, I like your idea of having a third-party estimator come in,
Yes.
working for the town, not for the OPM or the architect,
Correct.
to do bid drawing, all our construction drawing, specifications review, actually punch listing documents that are being prepared by others. And just having a standalone third-party review on that. Okay. What happens, Dana, is that the architect does all these drawings, all these specifications, and the OPM is required to assist in all of that. But having a third-party review, it's like peer review that the planning board has and stuff like that. Who's watching, you know, the watchers, so to speak. But it'd be interesting to do. So other than that, I'm going to open this up for discussion. Martha, you've been very quiet.
I think you've got it all pretty well outlined here. So I don't really have anything to add at this point. I think, you know, one of the first things we need to do is revisit our OPM RFQ and modify it as we feel appropriate. I can pull that up and circulate that if that would be helpful.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think Eric, you were on that committee originally, as I recall.
Yeah,
Yes.
so was I.
Okay.
Yeah, all three of us were.
All three of us
Okay.
were, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that'd be a great little subcommittee to, for the three of you to review that
Should-
and come back. You know, it's funny, when I was looking at this stuff, I want to say the town of Wilmington last year just sent out an RFP or RFQ or whatever it is, whatever acronym it is, for a town hall facility in the town of Wilmington. And it covered a lot of good points on it, so. but-
There is a difference between a RFP, request for
Right.
proposal, and an RFQ, or request for qualifications. And you're really asking for qualifications here because you're not selecting on a fee. You're really selecting on the qualifications of the OPM that you're going to hire.
Correct.
Right,
Can
and then the fee is negotiated.
Can you do it in parallel though? Because what if you like the qualifications, but their fee is ridiculous?
Well, you rank them, so you'll come up with a number one and a number two. and
Oh,
then
okay,
You can
gotcha.
ask,
Okay.
you could ask both for a proposal and to check the process as you move through confirming number one is
Okay.
the way to do it. So Martha, are you going to have a moment to find the final version? I think I found it last night. And two, could we do some editing before we send it out? And it says, I think it says Town Hall Police Station at that time. So we could do some editing before we distribute it.
Take a first pass of edits to make it specific for this project, but
Yeah.
then, you know, as a starting point.
Right, and there's certain things like dates and schedules in there, so we can highlight what we've actually edited, and then we can highlight what needs to be edited. Would be helpful, I think, in sharing the document with everybody.
Yep.
So it basically
Okay.
go out as a first draft.
Yeah, I think what it does is it gives us something to look at, and it'll be beneficial probably for procurement that actually has to initiate the final document and, you know, be compliant, but. All right, why don't we go to tab 4 or page 16? This is just for kind of reference only. So Dana, this is where you get into workspace allocation. And so this is how the government does it. And it gives you, if you turn,
Hang on a minute, I'm catching up to you.
okay. If you turn to page 22 of your packet.
This is an important part of this, I think.
Yeah, no, if you turn to page 22, it'll give you an idea how some utilizations, whatever industry you're in. Now, the problem is they don't typically give you a town hall.
All right,
So-
all as I have is the agenda.
Okay, I had sent you a packet with about 70 pages in it directly to your website. Martha, can you go to page 22?
I can do it too.
Want to share?
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you want to
Yeah,
do it,
actually,
Martha?
Eric, if you've got it handy, that might be
Okay.
better. I'm gonna have to,
Alrighty.
Oh, perfect. I like it.
Okay, yeah, so if you can go to. Yeah, I'm on page 22 of the packet. So
There it is.
as you look on that, what this gives you is industry standards. And again, it's that you'll hear this term, we space or me space. Me space is everything's in my office, meetings, this, that, file storage. We spaces, my office is efficient, and the extra space goes into open areas for, other enclosures. So if you go back to, okay, so basically, if you look at this, Dana, on the left-hand column, it gives you the type of industry.
Right.
And as you get down, social services, it gives you, which is not what we are, but it gives you 41% of your square footage. And again, these are rule of thumbs, would be offices, 38% would be workstations, 8% would be collaboration, and so on. Now, the problem is there is not a industry standard for municipal town halls because it's a unique type of layout, and the services that are required. If we go to the next page, page 23, legal seems to be the closest I can see that it's basically 60% office space, 40% open workstation, which will incorporate meeting rooms and other areas like that.
Mhm.
So, but again, this is, it's a standard, but we don't have an actual comparison, but it's something that we keep in mind. And what that does, Dana, is we get away from having, which you were mentioning earlier, the ability to have individual meetings in individual offices, and putting that into more of an open area where others can use it while you're in your office or while your office is locked. But so again, this was just more reference to clarify we space to me space, and that there are some rule of thumb standards. We go to tab 5, which is page 34. This was what was presented to the select board.
Oops, I got my doodles on it already. Sorry.
Okay, and it gave you a basic concept of placement. Again, this is just, does the minimum size building that we think we need fit on this lot? Now, whether the building should be closer to the street or there should be parking on Morgan Ave side or whatever, it just, again, this is what we have starting out. This doesn't mean this is what it'll be as we finish up. So the next page, Eric, is main level town offices. So this would be ground level. It kind of gives you the points of egress. From my standpoint, and I think we're going to, Martha, this is where you and Tracy are going to be invaluable, is sequencing the layout. Does the assistant clerk, town clerk, clerk files belong on their location? Is that too far from the town vault? So the sequence of the layout is going to be critical.
Yeah, and there are a lot of, this has been through some iterations.
Yeah,
And this is going to have to be looked at closely in terms of adjacencies and access to the public and so on and so forth. And appropriateness for first and second floor. So, you know, I sort of look at this as a fit plan, basically, to see.
yeah, it was a feasibility to see if we could fit 10,000 square feet of
Right,
finished space or thereabouts
right,
there.
right.
So,
But the layout needs
Yeah.
some massaging.
okay. All right, why don't we, just looking at the clock, we're almost an hour into this. We go to page 38. This was the second floor town level. Where the hearing room is upstairs and it gives you more, the ISD, town accountant, printing, DPW, all that stuff, break room. I mean, I think again, how this all sequences, does the hearing room belong on the first floor? Does that work? Probably the hearing room being on the second floor, where it's probably the most underutilized space, being that it's not up, being operated and being used 8 hours a day, during the work week. But all right, and if we go to page 39, again, we're looking at this from a standpoint that how we did the police station was having finished office space on the first 2 levels, utilizing the attic space for back of the house file storage, mechanical, networking, IT, and everything else. And the thought being, the third floor attic is the highest and driest spot in the building. And we have a roof that's going to be on the building, and utilizing some extra height in there gives us the ability to put these back of the house tasks on that floor. All right, and again, none of this is set in stone. This is just this is page 1 of a 400-page novel. All right, on page 40, it was a rendering at Town Hall on Morgan Avenue. 41 is the side view looking at it from the corner of High Road and in Morgan Ave. So tab 6. One of the things that Martha and Tracy did prior to being presented to the committee or to the Board of Selectmen was do a comparison, a program comparison between what is currently being used at Kent Way, what's being proposed at the new town hall, and then what floor would that potentially be going on. So my goal today, team, was to have everything in one file, so that if we want to go back and look at this before it becomes outdated, we'd have it. So if we go to page 44, it gives you how it's broken out, what's shared space, identifies the spaces based on programming needs, and then it allocates what floor. So existing would be at Kent Way. First, second floor attic would be what would be proposed in a new building. So this gave you the side-by-side comparison. Hey team, someone has some background noise. If you could mute your phone until you have something to say, that'd be great. So again, what's amazing is very rarely do we ever get this teed up from a committee standpoint at this level, where that programming needs have been identified, that the space allocation, I mean, this is still certainly, again, the first inning on this, but very rarely do we ever come in from a committee standpoint and have this much data, with some verification of what the proposed site is, will meet the needs of the proposed building. So why don't I stop there and let's open this up. Martha, why don't we start with you?
Well, just looking at this, just a couple of notes on this. The existing net square feet is just our leased space. So, you know, the public lobby that we have right now is not in our control. So that's why
Right.
that's a 0. The toilets are also not our space. So that's why those are a 0, just to kind of clarify some of that. But
No, I think, I mean, I look at, again, when you're in lease space, you kind of get what you get. If the
right.
offices are built and the remaining space that's awkward becomes one giant office. I mean, Martha, you took one for the team here. You're going from 196 square feet down to 140. I mean, but I bet a lot of that is you're going to move your file storage up to the 3rd floor. Is that a lot of that, or is it?
Yeah, that's if it's feasible, that would be some of the thinking.
Okay. So Dana, there's a perfect example under planning and zoning. Planning director currently has just under 200 square feet, and it's proposed at 140. So it becomes a net gain of space of about 60 square feet. When you do that 2 or 3 times, we pick up another meeting room. And that way there, it just makes a big difference.
What's the square footage of the Kent Way right now that we're utilizing?
Well, if you look at the bottom of the page,
There it is. Okay.
okay, it kind of gives you, I think to Martha's point, when you factor in, you're paying rent on the total square footage, the net square footage is the
Right.
comparison.
I understand that.
Yeah, okay. So,
Yeah.
but this is give us a table of where we're at over there, what's being proposed, and then how do we anticipate making this building viable wherever for the next 30 years. Eric, any comments on at this point? You're on mute if you're.
My only comments are just noticing the zeros in terms of, was this discussed like under building support? So building supplies has 0, it's 0, but it's on the program list. So is that something, Martha, that was just previously discussed as needed? Like obviously you need a janitor's closet, it says 0, so it's added as 80, so it's accounted for. But what about IT equipment storage? You know, that's in at 0, it's in at 150. So how far was this vetted?
And we put together the information. I think some of this context has added some things based on their experience. And we didn't, you know, specifically talk about each of these functions, like the IT equipment storage, building supplies, and I don't think we ever had any discussion about that.
Is anything missing?
Well, I think that would be the next step, that we really need to
Yeah,
go
exactly.
through this and determine if there is anything missing or anything that's in here that actually is not appropriate to us. So this was kind of a first pass.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, is how much work had been done on this, how much thought, how much vetting, and where it stands. So that,
Yeah, I mean, seems to me this was a tremendous amount of work, Martha. Thank you again to get this to this point on our first meeting is a big help. John, any comments, John Keller?
Yep, here I am. I guess my only one, what we're planning on here is tearing down the existing town hall and starting over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we shouldn't have any predetermined conclusions at this point. I think we should just, the math is always going to tell us what we're going to do, and the state building code and seismic control. I think the takeaway from the police station was we wound up doing 2x6 framing And then to meet the energy code, we wound up putting on another 3.5-inch skinned insulating panel on the entire exterior of the walls and spray foam in the inside. Town hall is probably 2x4 construction, which
Yeah.
and
Good point, Bob. And that is something that the state is updating their energy code every 2 years.
Oh, I know,
So
yeah.
It has come a long way so anybody that thinks back even 6 years ago, it's a totally different
Yeah.
code.
Yes.
And
I
the
agree
other
with
thing
that.
too, with all of the COVID concerns, your HVAC system becomes more complex, more detailed. Processing of outside air changes are approaching 100% outside air, which adds the whole dilemma. But you
Mhm.
require almost 30 inches to 3 feet above every ceiling to contain your MEP and your HVAC.
Bob, I
And-
do believe that we did have the structural engineer who was part of the team do a review of the existing town hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, Martha, I don't know if you have your fingertips on that. I'll have to go digging for that one.
Yeah, I've got it in my files. There was a complete study. I would think it was structure and HVAC and electrical
Mhm.
of the existing structure
Can you
building.
share that?
that'll be one of the steps that we'll certainly just, as we go through this phase, the schematic phase, we'll revisit. And again, I think refreshing us where we're at too is going to be important.
And Bob, one of the big starting factors with town hall was the accessibility.
Right. Yeah, as I recall, when you walk around Morgan Ave and High Road, the elevation of Morgan Ave and the elevation of the parking lot behind to the side of town hall that goes to the back of the fire station. I mean, it seems that a lot of unutilized space, excavating that material down to a more normal grade allows you to, and undertake the site plan that was presented as its first draft. But
Right.
so it's, I think, team, where we start out with an open slate of what we're going to do, and then again, either science, math, or engineering is going to tell us what we can and where we're going to go from this. Dana, any comments at this point?
I guess my, we're having our select board meeting tonight, and I guess the cost per square foot, we're looking at basically a 12,000 square foot building. In today's dollars, not talking about what could happen a year from now or 2 years from now. In today's dollars, do we have a decent estimate of what this is going to cost?
Well, that would be the next step. We'll craft it'll be called Newbury Town Hall cost components, and there'll be about 35 different components that at this point it's an educated guess because the market has been changing. But yes, that'll be one of the next.
We have gotten some new estimates though from the 14 million, which is right now in the capital improvement plan. I believe that the current estimates that we've gotten, the latest ones, are a couple of million below that level. Is that true? Does anybody know that?
You know what, I think the presentation that Context had made to your board was in the 10 million range, as I recall.
Right. So I guess the capital improvement plan, I'm wondering, I'm just wondering about the accuracy of that plan. That's all.
Well, you know what will happen is we get to a certain point, it will go back through capital planning. Again, were they anticipating a combined facility? Were they anticipating X square footage? I haven't seen the document, but again, I think the good thing here is we're going to come in with what we think is a lean and mean, efficient project that the selectmen get to decide what the next step is.
Right,
And-
right.
And I think, and then capital planning will then, we'll do a presentation to them. But we answer directly to the Board of Selectmen and certainly town meeting. But at our next meeting, Dana, we'll have something prepared. And I mean, I have the tablet already laid out. It'd be construction cost, main building, attic improvements, third floor. We'd build in an escalation cost of, because it's again, over a 12-month period, what you start out with and what you're gonna end up with. Then soft costs, design, engineering, all of that.
I just, like I said, the meeting's gonna be tonight. I
Yeah.
don't want to scare a whole bunch of people right off the bat. You know, it's like,
Oh, yeah. I would say,
that's what I'm getting at, you
Yeah.
know?
so if, my suggestion is the best available information was what was presented to your board when we got all the plans and this breakdown that we just reviewed. And barring some economic or environmental factor, I have no reason to doubt that if Jeff Shaw was saying this was going to be in the 10 million range, all in, that's where it's going to be. Now, I think the big thing is,
And I think that, you know, I really like the aggressiveness of how fast we're gonna move forward with this, because that will keep the costs down also.
oh, exactly right. The devil's in the details up front on contract. The biggest threat to a project for overruns is excusable delay. And that means when we can't make a decision on approving a $3,000 change order, and it takes 3 to 4 weeks to do that. And then it becomes an excusable delay for the architect, the OPM, and the general contractor,
Right.
which can run you $100,000.
Certainly.
So that's kind of that was the secret sauce, I think, on the police station. We were
Correct.
able to get to that, but all right, John, Martha, any further comments before we move on to
I'm good for now. We can move on.
okay.
Yep.
All right, so what I wanted to do was item number 7 is citizens' concerns. That's actually citizens' comments. So I do see, is Jack the only one that's in the audience? Is anyone else?
Yeah.
Nope, Jack's the only one I see.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to open it up to Jack. Jack, you're gonna give us your best 3-minute pitch, but we can't comment on matters that are outside the agenda today for the obvious reasons. But welcome, Jack, and why don't you give us your broad brush thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob, for the floor. I appreciate everybody stepping up for what will be the start of a tremendous project. I look forward to your open-mindedness. I look forward to vetting a couple other spots, addressing the space needs as well. I think it's important, as you already stated, the president, as Dana related, the presentation to the public concerning such a big expenditure. The vetting will be important, and that'll include the Hanover Street or the Walton Lane part of NES, where the town owns some property, where there is town water and sewer onto the site of NES already. I think that's an important component to look at as well, concerning stuffing the corner of Morgan Ave and High Road with more municipal and public interactions at a very busy location. I also think that the Kent Way affords some decent flexibility in and of itself, if that complex itself could be addressed, or Mr. Kelly was willing to work with us for outright purchase or condoing that unit to avoid the capital costs undertaking of what we discuss here.
I think Jack, just to respond again, the first step of this is the schematic feasibility, determine what we need for square footage and office size. And then that becomes universal, depending on the site, you know, it could change, but
No, we
but
both,
the needs won't change. That's the thing.
right, we've both been following this since 2014, Eric
Yeah.
and John and Bob,
Yeah.
you all been involved in various capacities. We know what's on deck. This isn't uncharted waters by any stretch, there's only
Yeah.
continuing to vet to arrive at the proper destination. And again, I look forward to the process and participating from the citizen standpoint, because this is very important investment for every taxpayer. And again, I appreciate everybody's time and efforts going forward, because it is a very important thing for every taxpayer citizen. Again, Bob, thanks for stepping up. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, John. Thank you, Martha, always, and thank you, Dana. I look forward to the process engaged. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you, Jack. All right, team, why don't we go around? I don't have anything else other than we got to come up with our next meeting date. Martha, why don't we start with you and see if there's anything, any wrap-up questions?
No, not at this time. I think we'll just follow up on the OPM draft, and I will also pull out that assessment of the existing town hall building that was done and get that out.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Eric?
I'm right there with Martha. OPM RFQ assessment of existing. I think if it's possible, I'd like to do some my own sort of doodles and then share them with those current plans and site plans for discussion. And I think we need to move as quick as possible to get the OPM on board so that we can confirm our schedule.
Okay, thank you, Eric. John, any questions?
No, I look forward to getting the RFQ from Martha, and also look forward to Eric's markups and contributing to both those items.
Okay, great. Dana, any wrap-up comments you have?
Yeah, just the letters and documentation that's going to be coming to and from, and just so I can educate myself in this process, because I'm kind of like out of my league here. Could we be via email or whatever? Could we be sent the documents and the responses from those documents that are going to go back and forth so we can keep up with that?
We probably run into, so if you check your I sent the meeting packet to your town hall mailing address, Dana.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got that, or if it's better to send it to a personal address.
No, I'd like you to stick with that. The problem I'm having with that is I just set it up at home with the IT
Okay,
department.
gotcha.
And there's some security issues with my devices, and I think it's Matt. I got to get him to solve those issues. But let's keep going with the .org address, because I can access it.
Yeah, I think the big thing we have to be careful of is under open meeting law, under public open meeting law, we really can't be deliberating an email that's back and forth. I can send you a document. I can ask, is this meeting date going to be okay? But no one can respond to all on any of the communication. So
totally, I totally understand. I understand that whatever documents come and go, obviously we're not going to discuss them unless we're in an open meeting. I get that.
But we should be able to get the documents in advance of the meeting so we can review it and have our questions ready to go.
That would be wonderful.
Okay. And now I do have to remind everyone, and I know most of you already have this, but we're required. I sent out an email to all of you last night about conflict of interest training. And Eric, you've already responded to it. Martha, Dana, you guys probably already have done that with.
I've done that. Yeah.
Okay.
I have done it, and the select board as a group is going to redo it here. I don't know if it's tonight or next month or something.
Well, as chair, I'm responsible to make sure you guys all give me a little signed slip within 30 days. I don't think they're putting anybody in jail, but it's always interesting what the conflict of interest, how, they give you some good examples, and it's pretty easy to inadvertently cross a line, but which we will avoid at all costs. But John, you got that, John Keller?
Yes, I got it, and I'll process it in the next day or two.
Okay, great. Well, other than that, team, I would think that, let me just look at the calendar. All right, so. I think that we've got a lot of preliminary stuff done. I've got to craft that cost components budget for the next meeting and plug in some numbers. I think the big thing is there is a lot of numbers beyond the cost of the building. You know, as far as furnishings, computer, telephone, security. I'd like to get a feedback. I've sent an email to Tracy, Martha, about what the budget was in that service, so that we can make sure that's incorporated in the budget, but also as part of the design, so it's not a owner supplied after we move in type thing. But
Right.
so if we went out to October 18th or October 25th, I think that'll give us some time to get everything in place. So I'm available the 18th or the 25th. The 25th gives us about 30 days. At this stage, assembling these documents, getting them circulated, giving us some times to review them on our own time. I think, you know what, I'm going to suggest October 25th, which is a Tuesday. Keep the same format, 7:30. Does this work pretty well for everybody?
Works fine for me.
Martha?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's okay.
Yes.
why don't we do this? Why don't we, John, are you okay on the
Yeah,
25th?
I'm okay with that. Yep.
Okay, so we'll mark up the 25th for our next meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, all right. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a
I
motion.
motion to adjourn.
All right, do
Oh,
we have a second?
I'm a non-voter, so.
Yeah, no, well, you know what, Dana, we vote on everything, you know, as I say, we rule by consensus.
Second that.
Okay, roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Martha Taylor,
I
John Keller,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you, everyone.